All right, let's watch the latest podcast. My opinions are that of an Ironman, so let's just get into it.
Kind of want to be a postman.
All right. What do you think is the biggest problem facing old school RuneScape today?
My CV has a massive picture of Tuscal's.
The biggest problem is the drop tables assume player trading, and if you play an Ironman, you're gonna get screwed over on RNG eventually, which doing thousands of boss kills, going dry for stuff, months on end, not a fun time.
Look on it, and like had my Inferno KC and like my chasing and it was so cringe.
Hello everyone and welcome to the official Old School RuneScape podcast, where we get to chat shit with JMods and creators so that you
get to know the person behind the crown.
Unless they're a creator, because they don't wear crowns, but that still works anyway.
Most of them are PMod crowns.
True, that is very true. Well, we're your hosts. I'm Mod User. This is
Mod Sweet.
And today we are joined by the wonderful Mod Arcane, who is a senior systems designer here at Old School. Arcane, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, thank you. Yeah, pretty good.
Are you excited to be on the first podcast?
Yeah, shit it.
You don't look nervous at all. You
No,
look so comfortable,
so relaxed.
Yeah, so relaxed. Okay, let's break the ice a little bit.
Kind of another problem is with the game is they're adding content too quick. So, which we've been seeing a decline in the quality. You can just see how many issues there were with the latest release with the potion chugger just straight up duplicating potions. I mean, how did that pass QA?
What have you done this morning?
I walked with Mod Husky. I've been looking after him this week. He's been staying over for game jam, so he's been sleeping on my blow bed. So I walked to the train station, got some coffee, got some breakfast, and then I've just been tidying up some odd game jam bits. Getting ready for the game jam presentations tomorrow, like showing it off to the team and stuff.
It's been a very exciting game jam. There's been so much that people have been working on. It seems like so much more than before. I think maybe because they're smaller projects rather than like larger ones. And
they really are. Like the theme was general just qual, which is obviously a lot more like we know what the problems are for qual usually. Like players are very, very vocal about that. Like this is just really annoying to work with, so we can fix them, right? It's a bit different than coming up with an entire continent and trying to populate with a bunch of different content, a bit more nebulous, right? So it has been really good to see like how much has really come out of it. A lot more tangible.
It's been a little bit hectic on socials as well, with everything being posted and opinions flying around left, right, center, because there's obviously quite a few different game-changing things. But we'll save.
There's been a lot of different little things they've been adding, which is, in my opinion, they should kind of slow down. Quality, not quantity.
A lot of that for when we actually talk about Game Jam, because this is more about getting to know you, Arcane, and you as a person as well as a developer. But I think, Sween, you were talking just before we started about what Arcane's been working on. Do you maybe want to start off with that? Something spicy.
Something spicy. Okay. Well, I mean, it doesn't seem right for me to announce what you've been working on. Do you want to announce what you've been working on?
So I've been working on Araxxor for a bit now.
The RS3 boss?
Yeah, the RS3 boss.
The big spider.
I think most people see Araxxor very positively, where it's like, it was a really cool boss at the time.
Cool
very
fight.
revolutionary at the time. So
it looks decent. I haven't done it myself, so.
It's very much trying to adapt it to old school and see what really fits. But I think it's a really cool thematic. We already have Araxxor technically in game, so it doesn't feel like much.
I think it's kind of weird that it gives the best strength bonus amulet in the game, but it doesn't require 98 crafting. It just seems weird because of the torment does.
For stretch or anything like that. It's also been a while since we've done a Slayer boss, so I think that'd be kind of fitting. Like Alchemical Hydra, I think, was the last one, so quite a long time ago. That was like
last one.
The 28.
Excuse me, not the torment. The is it the anguish? Right. Anyway, yeah.
18 or something like that.
No, a bit later.
2020.
I had just left Jagex.
I did.
He was embarking on his streaming career.
It was short-lived.
It was. Short-lived and toxic.
It's so well.
It was like the most fractured our friendship had been. 'Cause he turned into the most toxic little streamer imaginable.
I wasn't that
Jagex
toxic.
This, Jagex that.
I called out 2 things.
Maybe I just was sensitive because it was you.
Yeah, you were very sensitive.
Every
but,
every negative comment.
Look, can
like
you blame me?
stabbing
I spent like 3 weeks playing the game non-stop for like 20 hours a day so that I could get 95 Slayer to do.
Wait, they changed the to make the Zenite necklace. They changed it to 92. I thought it was 98. Anyway.
Do alchemical
I
hydra.
can blame you because you chose to do
Only
that.
to kill it 3 times and then feel like I never wanted to go there ever again, and I haven't been back since.
Wait, what? Is he dissing Hydra? Hydra is one of the best bosses in the game.
To do
Only
that.
like 20
fuck?
hours a day so that I could get 95 Slayer to do alchemical
I
hydra.
can blame you because you chose to do
Only
that.
to kill it 3 times and then feel like I never wanted to go there ever again, and I haven't been back since. But
Hydra
yes, you
was-
can blame me. It was my choice.
Hydra is literally one of the best bosses in the game. It's it doesn't require a lot of learning, and it prints money if you're into money. But yeah, it's a great boss.
Choice. You're right.
Well, hopefully,
It sucks trying to task skip to get to it, but anyway.
Araxxor doesn't have that experience for you, and you already have the Slayer level requirements, so
That is very
won't
true.
need to go through
Although,
that again.
I think I'll need to get it on my iron because that's
Yeah.
the account I play the most now. But I say the most. I don't really play a huge amount right now, but yeah.
Fair.
Which I think actually is quite
Mod's not playing an Ironman account. Yeah, go figure. Figure that, huh?
a good segue into a question. How does working on the game impact your kind of like desire to play the game or enjoyment for old school in general?
I've thought about this quite a lot, and it comes up quite a lot in terms of just talking to friends and family, and
Yeah.
like, oh, did it affect you, or like people that I used to play RuneScape with and everything. And when I first started, I was like peak Ironman, where like I was just past like 1800 total or something like that. So unlocked all the content, all the bossing, and just plowing through it. And I played for a year solidly after joining the company, and maxed the Ironman, got a bunch of drops, etc. And then it wasn't until I maxed it that is where I really started to fall off, and I was like, I really just don't want to grind like 2000 Corp or like 3009.
Because what makes PVM depressing in endgame is there's no anti-dry mechanics at all. So you can grind your whole life away and never get the item you're going for.
And stuff like that. A lot of the end game grinds at the time were a bit cumbersome. I'd maxed my accounts. You lose all that like easy.
Like maxing and skilling is like it's all right because you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, you can plan ahead. You're gonna grind. You know, you're gonna spend 3 days skilling, or you're gonna spend 3 hours a day skilling and whatever, and you can kind of plan around that. It's kind of a fun thing, but the uncertainty of PVM is rough.
Downtime. Wasn't really much of a clogger back then or anything like that. So I didn't really have many goals. So I did just stop playing generally, and I've found other stuff since. But I don't know if that's because I work at the company or if I just got to a point of the game mode where I just wasn't enjoying it much. I imagine it's partly both. I think for me, because since I've joined, I've kind of just become the PVM guy for the most part. And that's also the bit of the game that I enjoyed the most, which means that by the time a new PVM update comes out, which is usually the content I would really look forward to, I've already played it a lot.
Oh, of
Like-
course, yeah. You're designing, you're testing it, you're doing it over and over
Yeah,
and over
so
again.
like by the
yeah.
time TOA came out, like I've been working on it for like a year, and I'm just kind of sick of it by then. So like I think if I wasn't working on all the PVM content, maybe it'd be different. I'd be excited to play this content that other developers have made.
Sick of the content in 1 year's time. Yeah, I would say the general population of old school is sick of TOA after 1 year's time. So if it was fun content, I think maybe you'd want to still play it.
And I still see the same here. Like when Ed releases a new quest, I still get really excited to go do the new quests. So maybe it's more so that rather than just being around the product all the time. But I do hear it quite often where you're staring at the game like 8 hours a day. You go home, you don't want to stare at the game for another 6 hours, right? And maybe that's part of it. I'm not sure.
For me, it's not.
I think the hardest part of playing the game and being a developer is knowing that the drop rates and everything are so arbitrary, and having control over that arbitrary number. I think that would kind of lose some drive into playing the game, because it's like, if you had the power, low key, you could just, as a developer, you could just give yourself that item, or you could just make the drop rate better for yourself. I do think being a developer and enjoying the game would be a little bit tricky, just to how grindy things are. So that's why I think there needs to be like an anti-dry mechanic. So as a developer, you could kind of get a feel of the absolute maximum effort would be required for a certain item. Because if you have no guarantees and it's just an arbitrary drop chance, I don't know. I think it'd be kind of tough.
Not so much if I'm really staring at the game too much. It's more to do with community sentiment. If the players are happy,
Yeah, that's
I'm
true.
happy, and I'm more inclined to play. But if there's some kind of uproar or controversy,
It just reminds you about it, right?
yeah, like you log in, and sometimes, occasionally, my RSN is to do with me, and people will recognize me, and they'll be like, "Oh, this sucks," or whatever else, and it makes you feel bad. Like, well, I don't want to play. Or even just hearing your friends or your clanmates just like talking negatively about the game, as they should do, because they're players and they should.
It's dragging the drama home,
Yeah.
right? And we do need to care about that balance.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is a really good point. I've gone incognito now just because of that reason. Again, and I'm not playing a huge
yes.
amount at the
I
moment.
remember you changed
but,
your RSN.
Yeah, changed my RSN, because before it was just a case of like, it was IESA, and there would be so many nice moments, but all it takes is like one bad time where someone asks you a question that I just can't answer or don't want to give an answer to because it's something sensitive or topical, and then I'm just like, well, I don't want to play the game anymore. But yeah, I've gone through phases. Weirdly, I when I first started.
That would be hella annoying if you're a developer and you're just trying to like play the game and people recognize your username and sit here and fucking spam you with shit. That would be annoying.
I played the game more than ever before, and I think it's because I was so hungry to learn so much about the player base more than I did before, the intricacies of what people do, so that I could
Because it's
understand
so
helping
useful,
them.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it helps your J job so much if you play the game.
It really, really, really does. But then I burnt myself out because I went in too hard, and then I took a big break. Then I came back. Then obviously the streaming stuff happened, and I played like for a year solid, non-stop, and that was fantastic. But again, I burnt myself out then. And now I just kind of like go through waves where if friends are playing, we'll raid together. Otherwise, I'm just kind of not really doing a huge amount. I think Ironman was like the best and worst thing for me, to be honest. Hardcore was a terrible decision. Then moving that onto an Ironman was the best decision. But kind of similar to what you said before, is like, I've got so many grinds to go for, which should be exciting. But instead, I'm just thinking about, well, I need to get all my stats up, and I can't be bothered to grind right now. So I just want a PVM, but my supplies are like dwindling, and then I'm just like, oh, there's so much that I need to actually do. I should just go back to my main really and just max that out.
So what? All of them, what they all hate skilling? That's a problem.
But
That's a problem that I never really had because I just love doing farm runs so much. So
yeah,
I think by the time
Okay, well, so he's at least a tried and true player then. I mean, skilling is a big part of the game, and if it's really bad, then maybe work on that.
I'd like finished most of the end game content, let's say 3 or 4 years ago, I still had like 5k brews, like 8k prayer pulse,
Wow.
like 6k restores. Like it was just never an issue. But that comes from maybe 6 months of RSI inducing prayer flicking during all my Slayer tasks. Like I just didn't use my supplies at all.
yeah, I do not prayer flick. I'll lazy flick at most.
It's just so useful, but not worth it, man.
That's very true. Well, we kind of talked a little bit about community, but I guess seeing as we have you
Actually, I think it's easier to like one tick flick than it is to lazy flick. But
here, and players are going to be listening and watching.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, fingers
Hopefully they
crossed.
do.
All 100 of you.
Yeah.
What would you say you like the most about the old school community?
I mean, generally, just how engaged they are and how willing they are to engage in discussions, right? And most of the time, the discussions are really fruitful. Like they come up with good ideas, and like we were trying to like actually solve things together, and that's really rewarding. And you don't really see that much in communities. A lot of it's just like purely negativity and isn't really trying to make anything good. Also, like the respect for like what's right in the game. Like I think everyone just has this like intrinsic feeling of like what's good versus bad, and no one's very good at articulating like why those things are the case. But everyone knows it, everyone feels it.
Yeah.
It's just
And
old school. It
exactly.
boils down to it's not old school. It is old school.
It really is,
Yeah.
and that's where a lot of debates come from, right? Because you have people with different perspectives. But at the end of the day, if enough people are saying it's not old school, they're probably right. Like there probably is something there that we've missed that we really need to pull back and fix. So I really like.
The game is no longer old school. That's that's very evident. Back in the day, you just had to pray the right thing, and you kill the boss. Nowadays, you have to prayer switch, gear switch. There's like you gotta be you gotta pay attention to your movement. You know, there's a lot more going on that today's old school. I mean, it's not old school.
Like that part. I assume
It's fun, but it's not old school.
we were going to flip this around all of a sudden.
Well, do you want to ask that one, Sweden?
Well, it wasn't so much the whole what do you hate about the community, but there's this kind of one thing that's always been on my mind, which is the negative side of the community. I see bad stuff about me, don't care at all, laugh it off. Sometimes I find bits and it's so funny. I share my friends and be like, look how mean they are. Isn't that funny?
That's what he says when he's on the cast. But really, you know that meme?
Coping mechanism.
Yeah, you know the meme where it's like a face with a happy mask, and then behind it, it's just like
Right, yeah.
crying. That's Sween when he leaves me a voice note. It's like, you won't believe what they said
So
about
funny.
me.
4 minutes of sobbing.
I don't look like that.
Oh, is it me to me? But when it comes to kind of colleagues, I hate negativity
Makes you
being
mad.
directed at them.
Yeah,
It's like
same.
almost more protective. With you, I feel like you get a really bad stick from a small element of the community, mainly because you're so prolific. You make amazing content. Like people love Leagues, and you Trailblazer Reloaded.
Leagues is fun. I actually wish League stayed out year long, and then once the new League comes out, it just resets the League servers. This allows people to take their time to get cosmetics. Go ahead and keep the trophies for the sweaty tryhards that want to do it within the time frame of the 3 months. But I think it'd be a lot cooler if you just left the League worlds open. 'Cause then you could have people take their time, go through all the League mechanics, maybe spin up a new character, and then go through the League mechanics doing different choices. You know, because the grind of the main game is just, it's not for everyone. And I think you could get some players that just continuously play Leagues.
Absolutely smashed it. The kind of boss content you've done, absolutely smashed it. Even the things we weren't necessarily expecting to be big successes, like Muspa with Secrets of the North, awesome boss. Really fun, engaging fight. But then there will be like screenshots of you talking and answering questions and being an awesome JMod and talking and answering questions and working with people in some Discord servers. And then people are like, he's giving inside information, he's doing this, he's manipulating, he's, you know, I don't know. I feel like you get tarred with a bad brush there. I don't know if that's the right analogy, but we'll go with it. You know what I'm trying to say.
Bad brush.
With a bad brush, not a good one. Why
Everyone knows what a bad
don't you
brush
get the good brushes, man? It's not fair. So I just want to know how you feel about that. I think it's testament to you that you haven't, when you engage, it's constructive. It's never really defensive. When if it was me or someone else, perhaps we might be like, no, you're wrong, and this is why you're wrong. But you don't do that. So I'd love to just kind of hear your thoughts on that.
I'll preface it with, I feel like I've messed up at times. Like I've maybe said too much or like just been a bit too.
Actually, if I remember correctly, this is the mod that's responsible for the Cumball phase on Akka. Dude, fuck that boss fight.
Privy, but like the intent was always there, right? And being like really like productive and really helpful. Like I don't really like posting on Twitter and Reddit too much. I don't really like that forum style communication. I like it more like instant messaging. So that's kind of why I gravitate towards Discord.
Sure.
But Discord's obviously not as public as every other source of media. So don't blame people feeling like I'm being like secretive or helping my friends. Like I didn't know Oblivion before I joined, but it's just another Discord. I'm in a lot of Discords on my JMod account. I engage in a lot of different communities. And I like talking to them, right? And I don't want to like not really. I don't want to just not talk in these Discords because people are going to see that as me like leaking insider information. But yeah, I've definitely said stuff where I'm probably towing the line of like, yeah, okay, that probably just wasn't really wise. Like that probably shouldn't have gone there. But again, it was always with good intent. Like I've never really tried to do anything like that. But no, it does make me sad, right? Like I feel like I've become a bit of a scapegoat in terms of just like if there's like negative sentiment around drop tables or something like that specifically, which
it's always
there always is, right? Like we've never released a drop table in the past like probably ever that has had no drama on it, whether that's the reward blog stage and like figuring out the design towards the actual implementation of it. So I've become like, oh, it's only long because Arcane wants it to be long or something like that. I'm like, no, it's just me just trying to figure out like compared to all the other rewards in the game.
So, drop tables are based upon player trading, and that's kind of a problem. If you play an account that can't trade, and you have to play an account that can't trade because the bond ruins regular accounts. So, either if you want to restore regular account integrity, you have to remove the bonds from the game. But Jagex will never do that.
Where should it be best put? Where feels appropriate?
It's taking complaints from the previous drop table release, trying to fix them,
Exactly,
and then
yeah.
suddenly you're uncovering another issue.
Yeah, like the vestige thing where
Yeah.
we did the whole like you got to roll 3 times to get a vestige. That was the goal of going like, okay, well, I think it would be beneficial if people had a lower chance of going dry long term.
Yeah.
That was the entire intent. Complete oversight about like how that would interact with like day one economy where you've got 100,000 people playing it, but not very many people have got over 100 KC, which means there's barely any in the economy, right? That was a complete oversight. That was a mistake.
But I think in fairness as well, the way we kind of handled the
Communication
there isn't
around
a bug, but we're not going to tell you why.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
that
was
was
a
a-
little bit ominous, wasn't it? It's kind
Yeah.
of like,
But
setting
equally,
up a
like
failure.
I think players have almost come out and said like, yeah, you shouldn't have told us that. You shouldn't have told us how it works because now people are obsessed about like, oh, maybe I'm 2
Yeah.
out of 3. I don't know. And
I
it
see
creates
people
this weird
asking for
drama.
like ways that they can trade in items to figure out
Yeah.
what their role is.
And
at
maybe that's a
currently.
good band-aid solution at this stage because it's a bit late to change things like that completely. But yeah, it's like again, good intents. Maybe I make mistakes every now and again. I'm hardly perfect, but I'm just trying to do better every single time. But people do jump towards the negative, like malicious intent kind of deal quite often, which does upset me. It's not nice to read online, right? That people think you're evil. Like I'm in this job taking a massive pay cut compared to anything else I could be doing because I love the game and I
Yeah.
want to do really well and I want to make the players happy. Even though I don't play the game as much these days, I still love it like entirely. So it's
Anti-dry mechanics. That's what you need. That's what you need on the drop tables. If you roll a dupe, then you get one that you haven't gotten yet. If it's on like the same rarity. Oh my god, I could go on and on. There are so many different ways that it could be solved. Just nobody wants to get dupes when they're hunting for that green log. Oh, there's so much shit that could be done.
letting people assume malice does upset me.
I think it's lazy on the part of players to assume it's malice. And I think it's like they kind of call it slacktivism. They kind of, they feel like I'm contributing to this bandwagon. I'm seeing the sentiment and I'm going to join in because that's the right thing to do. Because I think sometimes all it takes on Reddit, genuinely, is 2 paragraphs that are cohesively written. And then people won't even read what it means, but they're like,
Get the vibe.
this person's used full stops and there are 2 paragraphs. Maybe there's an accompanying image. This person must be right.
So well,
He is kind of right on that. For example, so many people were like so against the subscription cost increase. But it's like if you go through and you can easily, like these people that post these things complaining about the subscription price increase, to be like, oh, I just can't even play anymore. This is too much for me. Yet whenever you like break it down and be like, yo, this is really not that much extra money. I remember one post was saying like, oh, I can't even play this game anymore because of this. It's hard to, he said he couldn't justify playing the game because of the price increase. And it later got revealed that he hasn't played the game at all in a 3-month period. So he had a subscription for 3 months and didn't play it at all. Well, of course, a subscription is going to feel expensive when you're not even playing the game. And it must not be that much of an issue to pay for a sub fee when people are just buying months and months at a time, like it must not be that much of an issue, which kind of undid his whole fucking post. And you see this shit all the time. It's these fucking bandwagons that these people get on, and it's just it's all bullshit most of the time.
Well-constructed opinion,
Yeah.
even if I don't agree with it or not, but it's well-constructed.
I don't even know what the opinion is. I don't know what it means. I haven't touched that content, but this person obviously has done because there's 4
Let's go back. Let's hear that again. This is so fucking true, though.
stops, and there are 2 paragraphs. Maybe there's an accompanying image. This person must be right.
It's a well-constructed opinion,
Yeah.
even if I don't agree with it or not, but it's well-constructed.
I don't even know what the opinion is. I don't know what it means. I haven't touched that content, but this person obviously has done because there's 4 commas in that sentence. Oh my god, he must know what it
And we're
means.
all guilty of it, right? Like
Yeah.
you scroll through YouTube shorts or TikToks over and over again, you see someone just talking about some random stuff you have no idea about, and you're like,
Yeah, it
wow,
sticks in
that
your head
person
then.
really knows that. Like, I
Yeah.
kind of think that now.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so easy. I don't blame people. It's just human psychology, really.
Oh, we should do the same. We should deconstruct negative opinions with our own easy clickbait shorts and TikToks.
Probably would work.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Get Archie on the case. Oh dear, but no, I think you're right. There's like the maliciousness there. I think the one thing that gets me as well is there's always a conspiracy. It's like, oh, Jagex are doing this because of this reason, and it's sometimes just
Probably just an oversight.
I say
So I've got a few conspiracies on myself. I mean, at the end of the day, it all comes down to money. Oh shit. At the end of the day, it all comes down to money. So if there's jank in the game when it comes to drop tables or whatever, it all comes down to money. They want to, some of it, they want to demoralize players so that they give up and buy bonds with real money. That's my conspiracy theory.
sometimes it's never that. I don't think there's ever been a time where we've gone into anything and there's been like an ulterior motive. It's just we've just done something and it probably wasn't the right thing.
Money.
So then we just go back.
We're
and,
just human. We
Yeah.
make mistakes.
We
so
haven't
change it.
spoken to the right person,
Yeah.
bit of miscommunication, we acted too quickly.
I
yeah,
think a good example was I know post Varlamore Part 1, there's a lot of drama about the clue step, right? About
Yeah.
how you needed to get the highest glory requirement in Colosseum, which is our latest piece of difficult content, to unlock a clue step, and you can't do the master clues without them, right? And like, that was not the intent.
Probably hearing nothing. Maybe that's what it is, especially over COVID time too. Because
People
during
are so used to having to scream to get
Yeah.
any changes, right?
during COVID, right, every game was being delayed. Like expansions being delayed, new games being delayed. I mean, and that was kind of around the time we started getting quite good at release dates because we just kept our cards close to our chest. Interestingly, a bit of a segue. I was interviewing like a candidate, and we were talking about release dates for the marketing timelines and stuff like that. Like, I said, do you see a problem with announcing really, really, really early on a release date and then changing? I go, no, that's just the industry. I'm like, oh, I didn't like that answer. I was like, surely there's a better way to do things.
Do you know? I think that's why I don't know.
I think that kind of takes away some of the hype over something. If you announce it, it's like, let's say you announce something and it's like 2 years away. That takes all the steam out of it. Don't even, unless it's coming out within the next, I would say at the like latest 6 months. Don't even announce anything like really before that. Because if you got to wait an entire year for something, you're just going to forget about it. That takes away all the steam. It's like, oh yeah, that thing's coming out. When's that coming out? All years or something. And it's like, people just forget about it anyway. And it's a lot more hype if you announce it within 6 months or something like that. And then you continuously talk about it up until its release. Also, video game companies, it's not hard to do like a pre-game launch, like kind of like a pre-game like launch party, talk about the game. I don't know why we don't see that more in video games. For example, whenever Blizzard launched their hardcore classic World of Warcraft servers, there was no like pre-game talk or anything. It was just the servers went live. I think they talked about a little bit of it on like a podcast the day before or something. But how pathetic is that? Meanwhile, you have sporting events that do pre-games for like every fucking sporting event, and that happens every week. You trying to tell me these developers they can't pre-game a little bit whenever they launch this stuff? Like, get the hype rolling. I mean, oh my god, it's not that hard.
Know why this is meant to be about you, Arcane, but it's about me now. But I think that's why I love working at Jagex, especially on old school, so much, is because we do always try to do things a better way. And obviously, you know, as you've heard and saw us say, that's a weird saying. I'm never going to say that one again. That we make mistakes, but the beauty of it is that we always try to make good of any mistake that we do make. And I think that I can hand on my heart safely say that that is the case. That is what we will always strive to do. And I think that's why I love working here so much.
Everyone's so willing to try and do the right thing, right?
Exactly.
Even if sometimes we make mistakes and sometimes it's really difficult and things fall through the cracks, like we're always doing it in the vein of trying to do it the right way.
Yeah.
At least from our perspective.
Yeah, no, completely. And it might take time, but there'll always be learnings from every project that we'll then take into the next project. And that happens consistently. And I love the fact that we do that. And I think you're right. We have got so much better with things like in terms of like timelines. Like before, we learned from announcing things way in advance and then having to delay and then delay again. Winter 2017 was a real thing, but we've avoided that. I can't remember the last major drama that we had over release dates.
It's usually just a month or something, really,
Yeah.
at most.
If we have to push anything, it is normally just a case of a couple of weeks. I think maybe we could get a little bit better at announcing the bigger things, like, you know, a league, so people can prepare time off. But those things take a huge amount of commitment from us to even know when exactly we'll be able to deliver it anyway.
And we're always working towards a date. So we'll go through our calendars and all the content we've announced, there's a date attached to it.
Kind of wish they would do leagues in like January 15th and do the 3 months from January 15th to like April 15th. But because if you do it after the holidays, then it's like you have the holidays to look forward to, unless you're a fucking Grinch. But most people, they look forward to the holidays. And then after the holidays, and it's the dead of winter, depressing. What do you have to look forward to? Well, you can look forward to leagues. And then leagues could run until April, and then a little bit after April, you're into spring, and then there you go.
But it's tentative, and we don't know until we get closer and closer to it. So the most we could do is be like, it might be within these 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But then players are like, well, what one is it? Because I want to book time off.
I wonder how players actually feel about that. And if anyone's watching and listening, hopefully you are.
100 of you.
Yeah. Leave us some comments. How do you feel about release dates? Would you rather that we had a release date that was then like announced earlier, but pushed back multiple times because we weren't able to deliver? Or do you prefer the current approach that we have, which is that we give as much notice as possible, but when we do give a date, it's pretty much locked in that it's going to be that?
No, don't announce really that much ahead of time. I mean, for the most part, delays, they're annoying. So when you do announce try to announce it as early and accurate as possible. Try to be more accurate than early.
Maybe a few weeks difference at most.
I'm sure they'd ideal like a really long release date in advance that doesn't change, right? That's the ideal thing.
Yeah, but we're in real world here. Yeah, that just doesn't happen.
There's always just too many unknowns in a project.
Yeah.
So then like you get deep into it and you're like, yeah, this is just way more work than we thought it'd be.
Maybe that's an interesting one we can talk about. We have Mod Kieran on. I know that he's obviously going to got a huge amount of people that's working alongside the development team as yourself, but we can talk about why.
Well, then just have something fleshed out, get it fleshed out, make sure there's no quirks, and then announce it coming in the next whatever time. Don't announce something and you're still fucking working on it. Stop. Finish it, and then announce it.
Delays could happen. What could impact it? But we won't go into that just yet.
I know one comms issue that we have had repeatedly about like expectations about when content is coming. That's generally like poll blogs, where it's like we get the poll blog out and then some random question and it takes like months, right? And that's very rarely because of like pure dev resource. It's just about like we just can't do it all at the same time, right? And it's like, yeah, we'll do these first, and it's like player expectations around which jobs get done first, and like their priorities, and misaligned expectations, because someone might have a Grotesque Guardian task, so they really care about the Grotesque Guardian question. Someone else is doing the Gauntlet grind, so they really care about the Gauntlet question. It's like someone's going to be upset, right? Theirs is going to be the last question done that they care about, and like I've always mused about like some indie companies have like their Jira boards almost visible, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like it literally shows you like, yeah, this is scheduled for like this release, and then as soon as we update it, they see that change and they can actually see it evolve. I think there's a lot of troubles in like community, or a lot of issues trying to do that, but like that idea is like quite interesting of just making that entire process like mega transparent. But we communicate so much already, right? It's like we can't just all of a sudden having extra blogs and extra sections of blogs with even more text. Players are already getting exhausted by that.
I actually tried back in 2018. It was one of my projects for the year, which was to essentially convert the Jira tasks that we have and put them into a public Trello board that players could then obviously check and see, because we were getting a lot of that back then, because we were doing like, that was back when we did 4 qual polls per.
That'd be kind of interesting, putting it on a Trello board. Just be transparent, but this just seems like it's doing too much. Like, just make sure it's readable on the fucking website. I read this really in-depth post once, and this guy had to go through so many different postings and podcasts and just have the information on the website
per year with the different themes, and there were, you know, like 30, 40 questions each one. And we were constantly being hammered with like, when's this coming? When's this coming? When's this coming? It's like, okay, how can we show this public facing? But there is just so much nuance behind it that it essentially would be, I wouldn't say impossible, but very near impossible, I think, for us to actually achieve with how much we end up moving things around. And as we speak to more developers, maybe we can uncover more about how that works so players can understand. But yeah, you're right. I don't want to have that.
As a player, I don't really give a shit about their internal development cycle. I just want a good quality product.
Task though of doing it, because we do talk a lot. We have a lot of blogs, and sometimes we're actually at like we hit a roadblock where we're at blog fatigue. We can't release more comms because there's just been so many big pieces going out one after the other that our team needs a break and the players need a break. I think that's...
Yeah, maybe slow down on adding new shit to the game. Because no matter... You could sit and talk about adding stuff all the time and pull it and pull it and pull it. And these fucking people will always vote yes. We're in the vote yes era. More content, more content, more content. But the general public, they don't know. Yeah, they want all this new content, but they're romanticizing that this content is going to meet their standards that they're looking for, and that's just not possible with how much new content is being added.
Something that's very transparent from the Project Rebalance that we've been working with yourself on. And, you know, poor Mod Goblin had to go through 3 weeks of being hammered by comments. And I think, you know, like the blogs that went out, the Reddit posts alone were like 2,000-3,000 comments in the first day. That is a huge amount for someone to have to go through. And obviously, you know, we help out where we can, but he needs a break from that. There's only so many times that you can be told that you've ruined Magic, that this is going to be the worst thing you've ever done, all the other negativity that comes through before it is just too much and you need to take a step back. And obviously that's when we get to process the feedback, then we come back. I think we're in a good place with that now. Yeah. But how do you feel about Project Rebalance? I might as well ask you, seeing as you've and we just can't. We're at resource block now, right? There isn't any more availability for us to add extra changes in there. Even the run energy with agility, we initially removed that out. If I remember, we were going to go with that to start with, right? We took that out because it meant that we could fit more in elsewhere. Didn't really feel like it would be that big of a deal. Then obviously players really wanted it. Felt like it would have been such a big deal.
So maybe whenever doing these podcasts, you should mention what exactly you're talking about, because it's been so long since I've did the poll about the run energy that I don't even know what they're talking about when it comes to run energy. I know for the combat, the magic, there's like elemental weakness. But whenever they do these podcasts, they should be talking more in depth on what exact, or just be more like descriptive with what exactly they're talking about. They're assuming that anybody listening knows exactly what they're talking about to run energy, but that's just kind of a nitpick on these podcasts.
We brought that back in. I think the whole agility thing, that fascinated me, seeing the response to it, which was meant to be just a nice quick touch up to revamp agility a little bit, rebalance it.
People want a complete rework.
And then it was
So why I voted yes on the agility course is because it was supposed to be the best way to get the amylase crystals, which you need for stamina potions. It was supposed to be the fastest way to get those crystals, which means you could then do sepulcher instead of rooftop to 99. But now, still, as an Ironman, the best way to 99 is to keep doing rooftops, because the RD course gives way more amylase crystals than the new course that they added, which they said the new course was going to be a significant improvement in amylase crystals that's like available, of the methods that are like available. But that is not the case.
let's rework the skill, which by and large we want to do at some point, but that's not the point of this project. And I find that difficult to navigate when it's coming to communications. Actually, it's like, how do you communicate to a player that this isn't meant to be exactly what you want, but it's still worth us doing? Because they'll turn around and say like, oh, well, just don't do the rebalance, just rework the skill instead. But I think maybe there needs to be more of an understanding of like how much dev resource a rebalance costs versus a complete rework.
Players are never going to fully understand like how projects work, right? In terms of going from like inception to design, fitting it into the roadmap.
Jesus, I'm gonna have to pull this up. Okay, here we go. So I found, this wasn't the one post that I looked at, but I looked at another post, and they like really went through a ton. But see if I can zoom in a bit here. Yep. Whatever happened to the course giving amylase significantly faster? It's not. So no, RD rooftops with the diary is still better. And then yeah, see. And people are rightfully so pissed because it's what it said that they were going to do. Yeah, I mean, other than the cosmetic, this guy's right. It's dead content. Other than the cosmetic for the squirrel, which, I mean, it is a cool cosmetic. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
All of like the things you have to sacrifice to do at certain projects. Like we could do that, but it's like, would you be happy about agility rework if we had to drop, as an exaggeratory example, like a raid or something like that?
Yeah.
Like if we had to drop a raid for that, I'm sure people would be upset about that. We made that choice.
No. Let's return to the basics and fix skilling. Skilling should be a lot more fun than what it is. All these raids. Just calm down with the raids and make skilling good.
It's never going to be that clear cut, but like that is how project management works, right? You got to make sacrifices and fit things in. I think like famous words of Kieran is just like, don't let perfect be the enemy of good, right? Like as much as we all want this perfect solution where we completely rework all these things, we can't let that stop us making really strong changes in the meantime. We can't just put everything on hold. So we do what we can, right? But it's good to know that there's a desire for more, because we obviously want to know what we can work on in the future.
People wanted a course that gives significantly more amylase crystals. And that is not what we got.
Future, right? And the fact that there's an appetite there for agility rework definitely gives us something to look at in the future.
Definitely does.
Speaking of the future, let's segue back into you.
I keep saying if anyone's watching, for those of you watching, because you're all definitely watching, I'm not being super...
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of downplaying it, saying like 100 people. Dude, I mean, right now we're at 18,000 views. I mean, there are passionate people that are interested in the direction of this game.
It feels really good. I think the combat is phenomenal. I think it feels really smooth. I've been also watching all of their sentiment around it because they're getting a lot of community feedback saying that it's too hard, too difficult, and everything like that. So kind of fun to see it on the outside, right? Players complaining about the game and like how devs respond to it.
Yeah.
Just seeing the other perspective, which I think is quite fun. But yeah, I think there hasn't been an update that I've worked on where I haven't drawn inspiration from some other game. I know Aka's like come phase.
Oh wow, you actually mentioned it. I'm surprised you actually mentioned it. Okay. All right.
Say that on here.
He's inspired off Shaper in PoE. He's got a move where he teleports around doing a bunch of stuff. It did change quite a lot into what it is. But then I did a bit more of a faithful recreation for the Muspers like teleport attack, where that's functionally just Shaper's attack.
Sure, yeah.
Because I just thought it was a really cool attack, and every boss needs just something cool in reality, even though it's not a very difficult attack to avoid or anything. It's just a bit cool, a bit flashy. But yeah, it's always fun trying to find a mechanic or a boss that you really like, and you're like, what would this actually look like in RuneScape? 90% of the time, does not work. Tick-based tile system doesn't translate into 99% of games out there. But sometimes you do come up with an idea from it. Aka's memory attack as well, where you memorize a quadrant. Again, that's based off the Maven in PoE. She has a memory attack. But yeah, draw a lot of inspiration.
Yeah, the memory attack's kind of neat. I mean, I think if I played it more, it'd be a little more fun. But just something that I would need to practice.
Got a lot of really cool bosses.
Nice. I knew Path of Exile was coming. I was just waiting for the full explanation.
The question could have been, so tell us about Path of Exile and why you like it so much.
We could talk forever, man.
This one asks about quests, but I'm going to ask about content instead. But Dan has basically asked, what does the process of designing new content look like under the hood? And how does the team collaborate to combine the tech elements? Okay, maybe it is more about quests because they say about with the storytelling aspect of the game. But I guess any content generally. What's it like developing content in the old school team, and how do you make that content actually work?
Process-wise, I can probably speak a decent amount. In terms of like, it starts to feel really artificial and weird, right?
Yeah,
and then you get away from like, you don't drop.
That probably is a good solution for a lot of things, but I can see where they're kind of going. Yeah. You wouldn't want to, Torva 2, Torva 3, like, that's just not that imaginative.
Like actual items, then you're dropping like components, which feels a bit bizarre.
And that's when you get into the realms of, games like PoE, where I might be wrong, because
breaking down components, that's literally RS3 with invention. That's another thing too that the developers of old school, they gotta be careful of, because it's like, it's true that RS3 does a lot of things right, but if they try to copy too much of the right things, they'll be criticized for, oh, well, you should just go play RS3. And it's like, people have like a hate boner for RS3, even when RS3 does some things actually better.
Then every time he plays in like a new league and stuff, he screen shares, and I'm like, all right, walk me through what you're trying to achieve. And I don't get it, because there's so many, when you're creating gear and crafting and stuff like that, there seems to be so much to it.
Yep.
Whereas old school has that kind of simplistic.
The crafting in Path of Exile is insane. Like, I watched like an hour or so video of crafting, and I still don't understand it. Like, it's so much that I don't think that I would want something like that in old school. Like, that's getting too complicated.
Yep. Here's some
there is beauty in simplicity a lot of times.
ingredients. You mash it all together, and here's something you wear.
Complexity in reality, right?
Right, yeah.
In RuneScape, that is. But yeah, PoE is a beast in its own.
That's why I can't get back into it.
I'm too dumb.
It's so hard.
You start small. You just do what your content creators tell you, right? Just like our community does. It's just like, use a setup, use a strategy.
Yeah.
Just follow that, and then once you get comfortable, you start to learn and experiment and stuff, right?
You say that, but I did that, and then I watched someone else on Twitch playing it, and I'm like, they've just done 15 different crafts in 10 seconds with systems I didn't even know existed to make the items that I spent 10 hours trying to find one of, which never got, and I was just like, what? Whoa! But that's the kind of game where 1,000
True.
hours playtime is like considered you're still new.
Their version of Ironman is very unforgiving. Like, you kind of need to understand how the game works to get away with it. And,
it's crazy. Extremely fun though. I can see why you're so into it. But yeah.
Cool. The next question I found,
I mean, another great example of simplistic crafting is literally Minecraft. Look at how popular Minecraft is. There you go. It's pretty simple.
Was about if you had to choose another profession, which would you choose? Now, you might surprise me and choose something completely out of left field, but on the off chance you're like, no, I like this. What are kind of long-term aspirations within the games industry? Are there any studios? I mean, you love PoE, right? So grinding gear, would you be like jump at the chance to go and work on PoE?
Ooh, this is he's got to choose his words wisely, I'm sure here. So it's gonna be funny.
PoE or that type of thing?
Of course, he's gonna praise Jagex because literally the employer. But
There's a big part of me where if I did get the offer to work at Grinding Gear Games, I'd like really want to, because again, it's a game that I love, but like I also love RuneScape, and I also know the state of the games industry, and as much as I love the game, that doesn't mean working there is very good.
Yeah.
Ignoring the fact that I have to go to New Zealand. Not really a big fan of that. But
Okay.
yeah, I mean it's far away, right?
All right, sure.
I think it'd be a beautiful place, but yeah, a bit far away from family, really.
probably edit this video down a little bit, because I mean some of these answers, like, dude, literally they are bored. You sitting here fucking playing around on his phone, like a lot of these answers are just kind of going through the motions. So I think I might try and edit this video down. Probably skip the rest of this. They're not really talking about the game. Living off the grid. Mistakes caught. Here we go. So we're gonna skip the rest of this. Skipping, because I was gonna kind of skip through some of this because it's not really about the game. So
I think everyone who's worked at Old School has had one of these moments, and if you haven't, then cool, we'll just move on and end it. The podcast, that is. But what was the first moment that truly made you panic when working on Old School?
I think it was when Darkmare launched.
Okay.
And I was working in the operators, and I was working on Twisted Ancestral. Ooh. So I was adding these new objects into the game, and Darkmare launched, and there was a bit of an issue on that launch, if you remember.
okay, so the rest of this is not going to be that. It's going to be really talking about the game. So that's really all that I'm interested in talking about is the game. So we're going to end it there.